So good evening, everybody. For those of you that have been waiting in the wings for this to start, thanks for your patience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties to get this going, but we're really excited tonight to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes with those of you that are able to participate in tonight's webinar, which is very much at the foundation of what Dow Labs is all about, and that is really bringing Chinese herbal medicine to everyday applications. And in this particular series tonight, we're going to talk about how and why you should and can be incorporating Chinese herbal medicine into your summer travel plans or any travel plans for that matter. So I'm John McGarvey. I'm one of the co-founders of Dow Labs, and I'm really proud this evening to be talking about products that I not only sell, but that I use on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day. And anyone who knows me or who works with me knows that we're constantly overdosing on Chinese herbs, but it's for good reason. We have a couple different audiences with us tonight. We're excited to have professionals from the practitioner community that are joining us either as a current wellness ambassador for Dow Labs or it's just any acupuncturist or integrative medicine doctor that is curious about what we're about. So they're participating in that as well. We'll be talking to you, the general consumer, as well, to tell you more about Dow Labs or to encourage you to get an acupuncturist and learn more about the power of this amazing practice. We want to make it as collaborative as possible, so you do have the ability to ask questions. I think there's a link at the bottom of your screen where you can chat with us if you've got some questions. If you don't have questions right now or are a little timid about sharing, you feel free to email me directly or some of my colleagues. So that's one housekeeping point. Number two, I've got a colleague who's participating in the wings, Tracy Dwight, who runs all of our community management, and she's awesome. And she's going to put up a presentation here momentarily. And then we're really excited. We've got an acupuncturist joining us to discuss. We're having a few technical difficulties, but Daniel Finley, Dr. Daniel Finley, is joining us from Big Bad Dallas, Texas tonight. And Daniel is a wellness ambassador for Dow Labs. He's an incredibly talented acupuncturist. He, true story, took my pulse at a Thai restaurant in Dallas 2 weeks ago when I was down working with him, and he knows his stuff. So he's going to be here to answer some questions as well and tell you some experiences that he's had about one of the formulas we're going to discuss. So here's the deal, you guys, and we can cut into the slides now. The reality is we're jumping into farther along the presentation, but we're jumping into the busiest travel season of the year. And the theme tonight, of course, is to talk about Chinese medicine as it can apply to your summer travel plans, whether it be to the beach or to a third world country or just to maybe see cousins or aunts and uncles. But the reality is, as a co-founder, as an entrepreneur, I'm on the plane all the time. And one of the reasons I said we started this whole experience with Dow Labs is because we know the power that these things have, and our whole vision is to make these as easy for you to consume as possible. For those of you that don't know much about Chinese medicine, it's been around for 2,500 years. It's incredibly powerful stuff, but the reality is it's not necessarily always convenient, and sometimes it doesn't taste that great. As a matter of fact, it tastes terrible most of the time, and our whole premise at Dow Labs is to solve a few of those problems. We've got an awesome chef who works with us. We've done a great job of flavoring these things, and they're in individual sachets, at least the items we're talking about tonight. So you can just take them in your purse, your backpack, your briefcase. So the agenda is as follows. We're going to give a little overview of why Chinese medicine for travel. Give you a little bit of a perspective on the germs that are out there. Talk about how you can apply some of our products to some of the foods that you might encounter along the way, and then talk finally about an incredible formula called Emotional Balance, the inspiration for which is Xiaoyao San, or of which is Xiaoyao San. Talk to you about that a little bit, about how it can just recharge batteries, kind of reduce mental fog if you've been on a long flight. And then finally, and I'll wrap up the overview here, we'll talk to Dr. Daniel down in Dallas, and he'll talk to us about how he's used Bao Wan when he's been abroad, and then also with his patients as well. It's pretty cool stuff. One very quick disclaimer, there is a FDA deal that we like to talk about, so we're not doctors here, but we are very passionate entrepreneurs that love our herbs. There's a lot of things that we can't say that these formulas do just from an FTC standpoint. So what I would do is invite you to do your research on your own, or like I said earlier, go find an acupuncturist, because this is awesome stuff. And they can tell you more that I can't, just for legal reasons. But But yeah, you can find out more information about the formulas. And then finally, do know that we've got a discount code for those of you who stick in with us towards the end of the presentation. All good things come with a discount, and everyone likes a deal. So we do want you to try our products, and we'll give you a reason to try. So let's just talk for a second about, airplanes in general. We all know statistically, anecdotally, that these things are absolutely disgusting metal tubes. That the reality is, guys, these things don't get cleaned, okay? They do if they're coming from Nigeria or after a long haul flight, but if you're on a quick turn aircraft in Minneapolis, our hometown, or if you're flying Spirit, God forbid, or Southwest where you got a real quick turn, they're not coming through and sanitizing these things. There was a Wall Street Journal article that we just actually wrote about that we reference at the bottom of the article here, pardon me, the slide here. It talks about this statistic right here. If you're getting on a plane, according to one study, you've got a 20% higher chance of catching a cold as a result of just being on that aircraft, okay? The reality as well as we travel, we're wearing and tearing our bodies. And if you're a business traveler and your interest is applying these to your daily lives, the rigors of just being in hotels and out, you're confronted with all sorts of stuff. There's another article that we came across as part of the research for this particular webinar that was conducted by the National Academy of Science that basically said, all right, if we're getting on an airplane and you're sitting within one row of somebody who's sneezing, coughing, whatever, you got a really high chance of catching that cold. Okay, not so much if they're in first class and you're in the back of the bus, but if you got somebody within a row in front or behind you and they're sick, the incidence of you catching something is extremely high. I would also say that the hot spots, not surprisingly, when you get on the aircraft are the seat back pocket where God knows what's in there. But then as well, you've got the tray table, which is a little Petri dish that they've put in front of you. That in most cases, they're not wiping that thing down between flights. So just kind of keep that in mind. And therein lies the beauty of our first formula. It's immunity support, which is a very beautiful, very powerful formula based on the formula Yuping Feng Song, which translates to jade windscreen. Jade windscreen is something that I've been taking for the better part of 2 years, 3 years since my business partner, Eric Karchmer, introduced us to it. And the way it works is really quite simple. As we look at the next slide, we'll see that, in essence, what you would do is take our powders, and I should have said this to you earlier, you just mix our powder with water. It's 3 very powerful herbs that we've complemented with a pear ginger flavor. And you would take this the way you would any sort of like a vitamin C packed powder, be it emergency or airborne, before you get on the flight. There's tremendous research that's coming out of Asia about the power of this particular formula and the incidence in some controlled studies with mice at preventing things like influenza and other sort of airborne pathogen type things. And those are extreme, but let's just take the heritage for a second, and I can just tell you that there's no better immunity booster on the market right now. And if you're getting on an airplane, and based on the statistics that I just gave you, I would really encourage you to take a look at this thing because we can talk from the perspective of Chinese medicine and what it does. I can tell you from the perspective of being somebody who's got 2 little kids on an airplane, pretty regularly. Knock on wood, this thing has kept me pretty healthy throughout the year. And so we would encourage you before you hit the check-in button to take 1 or even 2 of these in the day you travel. And it's pretty powerful stuff, as I keep saying. As we look at applications beyond just getting on an airplane, this is a go-to, you guys, in the event that you feel a little something coming on. You hit 2 of these, and I think you'd be pleasantly surprised, and that's as much as I can say from an FDA standpoint. Summer months, we're here in Minneapolis, and the incidence of strep, I've talked to 2 people in the last 2 days. Strep is going around. One of my advisors actually had to go home because of it. I took about 2 of these things as soon as I got out of his car, and so far so good. And as well, if you got little kids, rounds, germs, things of that nature, this is a great formula. But as it relates to this, I would encourage you guys to put this in your backpack, in your purse. Hit this in lieu of the other items that might be out there. That's immunity support. Okay, Bao He Wan, the bad news bear. Bao He Wan is an 8 herb formula that translates to preserve harmony decoction. Let's be honest, when we go on the road, we can sometimes get comfortable, particularly on a vacation, we start letting our guard down a little bit. You're in a 3rd world country, which Daniel's going to talk about. You're exposed to some exotic foods. God knows where you're staying, even if it's domestically, and you could have somebody that just didn't prepare the food the right way and you're stuck with something. Well, this is sort of a go-to, call it Chinese herbal medicine Tums type thing, and I can't really say that, but I did anyway. This happens to be our #1 seller right now. It's the answer to sort of digestive needs that you can't really put your finger around. But we like to take this before a meal, particularly when it's a big one, or afterwards if you feel like, oh my gosh, I just ate way too much stuff and I got to do something about it. This is the formula, you guys, you really, really want to go to. As we say there, if you take a large meal, take it right afterwards. And Daniel, as a professional, has used this one in his clinic quite extensively, the formula Bahoan, for just resetting digestion in the stomach in general. The other way that we like to talk about using this is actually for hangovers. And we don't get them too often, but when I have, it's great to take before a night on the town, or if you've got to nip the dog the next morning, it's a great go-to. And again, if you're on the road, particularly for vacations, who doesn't like to kick back, let the hair down a little bit, both with food, with alcohol, and having a good time, but then as well, in the instance that you come across a food cart in Nepal and you're like, you know what? I've been safe this trip. You eat something, it doesn't sit well. Well, this would be one that we would really encourage you to kind of have on standby just to get that strength rebuilt and whatnot. That's digestive harmony. The last but not least is our friend Xiaoyao San, which is the next slide. Xiaoyao San is one of the most beautiful, powerful formulas in all of Chinese herbal medicine. It's with all of our formulas, I can say this, it's the formula that really got us excited and got us started. But it's free and easy wanderer. And if you do some research on it, you can understand the beauty and the power of this incredible formula. As a matter of fact, I took one about 15 minutes before we started, and it just gets the mental energy reset, refocused. But it's also good for me for, let's call it jet lag. When I travel to the West Coast, and this is me, and Chinese medicine is all about your personal experience with it. But when I travel to the West Coast, I get this sort of like mental fog after sitting in a metal tube for 3 hours that it just, I can't put my finger on it. And this is the formula that I'll drink after I land to just kind of reset and kind of reacclimate to the new time zone. We have some practitioners who have recommended using this for jet lag in general, and I would probably naturally take it for that reason, just because of the reasons that I've explained and that I've experienced with the formula. But again, it's one that can just help reacclimate the body and the mind. For those practitioners out there, I did talk to our colleague, Dr. Eric Karchmer, before this call, and he also recommends sour jujube as something to kind of put in your bag of tricks if you're on the road. But again, in this instance, we take this 1 or 2 times a day as needed. Probably had 3 of them already today, and it just kind of keeps me going here. But the formula itself, beyond the sort of jet lag, woes, and energy, our customers, our friends, our guests have used it for everything from just sort of like an energy boost at the end of the day. It's very popular with women during the PMS phase of their cycle, and then as well, it's just something that just kind of makes you feel good, gives you a little bit of a hug. So the beauty of Dow Labs, let's go to the last slide here, is that these things are ready-made for you, the traveler, okay? You don't have to add them to hot water. They're powders that you just add to room temperature cold water. You can certainly add them to hot water. But for the traveler, they serve and function just the way any sort of effervescent formula would sort of work, the way you might be already used to doing. You simply add it to water. As I mentioned earlier, Chinese herbal medicine doesn't win awards for flavor, and we've worked really hard to kind of address that, make it more palatable, get it down. But it's the power of the stuff that just kind of belies and negates all of that stuff. We spend a lot of time communicating our passion for Chinese medicine, and for good reason. It does certainly take a while in some instances to kind of warm up to and get down the hatch, but once you understand what this stuff does, there's nothing quite like it. And that's what really keeps us going, and we hope that keeps you going on your summer travel. So do pack it in your briefcase, your purse, your hip pack, if people still wear those, and your backpacks, and really unleash the power of this amazing practice, and make sure you're safe and healthy and comfortable on your trip. So I do want to turn it over to Daniel. We had some issues getting his camera going, but as I mentioned, Daniel Finley is a friend, an acupuncturist down in Dallas, Texas. I really enjoyed talking with him because his knowledge is incredible. He's also excellent with Qigong, an incredible martial art that we would invite you to take a look at. So we invited Daniel on, because he could go and talk somewhat about these formulas. Let's go back to Daniel's picture because that's him. We think he's in Haiti there, which is pretty cool. But Daniel, I'd love for you to share your experience of how you've used Baohuan on your travels, and then anything else you kind of want to add to anything that we've kind of discussed tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I use anytime I travel, I take Baohuan with me. And it really saved me in India because we went to visit, they took us to a place where there hadn't been white people in like 40 years. And we were there at an orphanage to help with the kids. And of course, they are very offended if you don't eat with them. So I took Baohuan before, and we're sitting down to eat, and the guide we were with pointed up at the ceiling. And they had a line that was tied across the ceiling, and there were thousands of flies up there. And that's how they kept them off the kids, I guess. And I guess everyone who'd been there before got really sick after eating at that place, but there was no problems. And so I make sure and take it with me anytime that I travel, anytime I'm eating something strange. And there's amazing research on how it regulates the digestive system and can really kill anything pathogenic that does get in. So, I have my patients as well. The new patients I see, I usually start them on it just because I know how our diets are here. And I end up getting a lot better treatment results as well from just starting them right away on that formula and then working on pattern differentiation after that.
That's awesome. And your anecdote in India rings true. I used this formula years ago, unbeknownst to me when I was in China, and I got pretty sick when I was in the Tibetan plateau. And this is something that just kind of came in handy. So we got a couple of questions from the field that I want to talk about. Is this safe for children? The answer that we give, that we print on the bottom of our packages, is it's not recommended for children under the age of 12. Having said that, I would invite you to do some research and kind of come to your own conclusions. We have purposely made the formulas mild so the general public can consume them, but we leave that to your discretion. Chinese medicine has been practiced for thousands of years and is still widely practiced across most of Asia, and so yeah, we'll leave it at that point. Finally, the other question that we got is, does this stuff pack easily? As I mentioned, yes, indeed. It's Chinese medicine on the go, so to speak. So it's a great way for you to take this ancient practice and really apply it in an everyday setting. So we're going to flip to the last slide. For those of you that have hung in there with us tonight, the ambassadors, because I know we've had a handful. Give us some high fives and some emojis, so to speak. If you, what did we give you? Tracy. They can email Tracy and you can get 15 free emotional balances for participating on your next inventory purchase. So do check that out, but send Tracy a note. We'll get that taken care of. And then last but not least, for the consumers out there that want to try, and we really hope you do, use discount code TRAVEL at checkout, and we'll throw you a 20% bone as far as the savings are concerned. So in a nutshell, this is good stuff. It's meant for the wellness explorer, the traveler that's a bit more exotic, both in their behaviors and where they're going, but it's equally powerful for the everyday. So if any follow-up questions, we would invite you to email Tracy and she'll circulate them. But we wanted to keep it short and sweet tonight. That's the story, as they say, and do give it a try. And thanks for your time this evening. We look forward to your feedback.